what is our status after the major ibadat? In general, all ibadat, but specifically the major ibadat, just like Ramadan, Hajj, Umrah. Those major ibadat, that it's a huge transformation to our situation, how we live, how we will spend our days and night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, after the ayat al-siyam, He said, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. That fasting being prescribed upon you as it was prescribed on the nations before you. Then the idea, the goal, al-ghaya, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So you may gain piety, you may come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the question is, what happened after Ramadan? Where we are? And in general, people will be segregated or distributed to three main groups after any major ibadat. One of them, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to mix all of us among them, is whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them that أُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. So some of them that steadfast after Ramadan, a huge transformation, change into their life, and then they stood fast after it. And those, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will be with the prophets and with the believers, the martyrs, and the pious people. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all among them. But the other two groups, which could be the majority of the people will be among, is the one that who felt that they been in such a high status with coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting Quran, Taraweeh, doing Sadaqah. Ramadan is different festival, different days. And we feel that we are very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but after that we see ourselves a little bit lacking behind, little bit slowing down. Nobody, unless, as I said, the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them to maintain the status, whatever they've been doing throughout the month of Ramadan, unless few people. So who are those people? What their be situation? How they will be thinking? Is it normal? Is it something happened during the Prophet ﷺ life with the Sahaba? The answer is yes. And listen to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. روى الإمام مسلم عن حنظلة الأسدي, that the Imam Muslim narrated from Hanzala al-Asadi, one of the prominent Sahaba, one of the people that he used to write the books to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's a writer, a clerk for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, قال لقيني أبو بكر, that I met Abu Bakr. And he asked me, how are you, Hanzala? He said, Hanzala saying that I feel that I am being an hypocrite or munafiq. And then he said, what's wrong? Subhanallah. What's the situation? It's a huge statement. It's a very heavy statement to say that you are a hypocrite. Nasallahu al-afiyah. And then he said, Hanzala saying, answering to Abu Bakr, he said, when we are with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he reminded us about the Jannah, the Nar, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he prepared to the good people, and then what he prepared to the people of hellfire, nasallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala afiyah. And we are spiritually elevated up to the point that as if we are seeing the Jannah and Nar in front of us. But once we leave the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we get mixed with our children, with our wife, with our work, with our land, with our situation, like our lively matter, we forgot a lot. So we are like different. And Abu Bakr, he said, Subhanallah, I find the same thing. So they went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam together, and then Hanzala said again that, oh Messenger of Allah, I feel that I am becoming an hypocrite. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked him. He could have, before that, he could have just say, no, you are not, or yes, you are, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he wanted to let him expose or vent out what he is feeling. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best teacher. And then he said, وَمَا ذَاكَ? Where did this come from? And he said, O Prophet of Allah, when we be in your company, you remind us about Jannah and Nar. We are spiritually elevated up to the point that as if we are seeing Jannah and Nar. And once we leave you, O Prophet of Allah, and then we get mixed with our wife and children and work and our matter, we forgot a lot. And listen to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam what he answered Hanzala. He said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, and he's taking an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَنْ لَوْ تَدُومُونَ عَلَى مَا تَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ عِنْدِي وَفِي الذِّكْرِ, that if you stay on the same status when you are with me, when you are in dhikr, which is dhikr could be any ibadah, right? If you stay in that same status 24/7, then the angel will be shaking hand with you in your roads, in your houses. But ya Hanzala, sa'a wa sa'a. But oh Hanzala, 1 hour and 1 hour, at a time and a time. What he means, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, we cannot, as a human being, maintain the spiritual status when we are in the major ibadat. And it is okay to take care of yourself, to enjoy, to rest, to go to picnic, enjoy your life, eat well, sleep well, as long as this is within the boundary of Islam, within the boundary of Sharia. It is okay. So sometimes, as I said, people when they feel what Hanzala is feeling, they may feel, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't accept me, I cannot maintain what I've been doing. But no, brothers and sisters, it is okay. We are human beings unable to maintain the same spiritual elevation when we are in major ibadat. But the gauge or the thing that it is determine what's your situation is that even when you are doing the matter of the life that you are dealing with your work, your life, your kids, your work, it is within the boundary of Sharia. It is within the boundary of Sharia. Actually, you can switch that, your sleep time, your eating time, your joy time into ibadat itself. That I will be sleeping so I can wake up for Fajr. I will be eating so I gain strength in order to go work and then provide a halal rizq for my kids and so on and so forth. Even that joy, that the picnic that you go, yes, I will go and then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enabled me to do that, and I will thank Him. And I will maybe helping somebody while I'm on the way or coming back and so on and so forth. This is the second, which is I think hopefully most of us are among that. Now the third part, that the people who worshipped Ramadan only, who come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan or in that major ibadat, as I said, and then after that they go back to exactly or even maybe nasallahu al-afiyah, worse than what they used to be. And for them, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help them to be steadfast and maintain the ibadat that they done, as well as I will tell them a story, you can share it with others, about somebody came to Al-Imam Ibn Adham, Ibrahim ibn Adham. A young man came to this great scholar, and then he asked him, "Oh Imam, I'm unable to prevent myself from doing mistakes and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell me something, help me to steadfast. I am unable to do that. I come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then after that I forget and I just disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And then he said, Al-Imam Ibrahim ibn Adham, he said, "Okay, you can disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no problem." And then the young man, "Okay." He said, "But you should maintain 5 conditions. If you are able to maintain those 5 conditions, go ahead, disobey Allah, whatever you can do, no problem." He said, "Please, give it to me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." And then he told him, "If you would like to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't do it on His land," which in our language, don't do it under my roof. As long as you're able to do it in a land other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala own, then go ahead, do it. And then the young man got disappointed. He said, "How come? Is there any land that we are in unless it is under the ownership of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?" And then the Imam told him that, "Then don't you shy or how dare you? You disobey him while you are on his land, under his roof. And he said, okay, what's the second situation? Let me see the other one. And he said, okay, if you would like to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, disobey him, but do not eat from his sustenance. Don't eat from his sustenance. Find another sustainer. Find another razzaq. Find another provider other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then again, his disappointed increased. And he said, even my breath that I take in and out, isn't it from him subhanahu wa ta'ala? And again, how dare you? Don't you shy that you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then he provided you with the sustenance? You are utilizing his sustenance to disobey him? He said, give me the third one. He said, okay, if you would like to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go ahead. But make sure, do it in a space or in a spot that he is unable to see you. He said, oh my God. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala able to see the black ant on a black stone in a dark night. Can't he see me while I'm doing whatever I'm doing? He said, then don't you shy, or how dare you that you made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a worthless observer. He said, give me the other one. So far I'm unsuccessful. And then he said, if you would like to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do it. But when the angel of death come to you, tell him, don't take my soul, give me 5 minutes, I will repent, and then I will come. And then he said, it's impossible. It is impossible. I can't do that. He said, give me the fifth one, hopefully I will be able to do it. He said, okay, if you would like to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go ahead, do it. But when the angels of hellfire comes to take you to the hellfire, make sure you run away and immediately go to Jannah. He said, astaghfirullah al-azim, I'm unable to do that. The young man started to cry, and then he said, I will not able to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on his land. Unable to do that without his sustenance. Unable to do that while he is unable to see me. And I cannot escape away from the angel of death. And the most difficult one is to flee from the Zabaniya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then flee to Jannah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me and then help me to be steadfast. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to be steadfast. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه